There, look at the donkey. She's got it. Set the hook. Randy, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm going to actually put my earplugs in here too. Doing great. Doing great. I appreciate it. I haven't had a chance to introduce you yet, Randy, so pretend like you're not even there. Anyway, we all have friends that are living dreams. And today I have a special guest. His name is Randy Pierson from Oakdale, California. Actually happens to be where I was born. And Randy is a Bassmaster Elite Pro and a Bassmaster Classic qualifier. Now, what does that mean? Some of you may not be familiar with bass fishing, but it's a billion-dollar industry. It's where a lot of men and women get in these boats that go about 70 miles an hour, and we chase these fish. And they're made up of largemouth bass, spotted bass, Kentucky spotted bass, and smallmouth bass. And these tournaments are held from either 1, 2, 3, or 4 days over a prolonged period. And at the end of each day, whoever weighs the heaviest 5 fish wins over that period, 1, 2, 3, or 4 days. And also, these prizes can go up to $1 million. Most of the professional tournaments are $50,000 to $100,000. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Randy Pierson. Congratulations for making the Bassmaster Classic.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's like going to the Super Bowl. It's like going to the Super Bowl. And you've also made the Bassmaster Elite Pro Series, which the first one is coming up here early next month in Florida, correct?
Yeah, it's getting real close. I think we're possibly within a week. So for leaving.
Wonderful, wonderful. Before we get started on all that stuff, we got to start back to when you were a kid. Okay. Do you remember the first bass you ever caught?
I do. What's kind of funny is I remember that first fish, and after that, I don't remember a whole lot of fish, but the first fish I ever caught, I was at Lake Don Pedro, and I was out with my dad in a little aluminum boat, and we kind of drove around, and we put the boat on just on Schoolhouse Point, right across from the launch ramp, and I got out and walked one direction. I told my dad I was going to go this way, and he's like, okay, whatever. And I was probably 7 years old, roughly, give or take a year. And so I walked. I wanted to fish all by myself. And so I went down the bank, and I was throwing a Brawley bass bug, I think it was. And my dad always used to throw the blue with the purple man's jelly worm on it. So I was casting out, and all of a sudden I caught a fish, and I brought it in all by myself, and I got it, and it was flipping around, and I grabbed a hold of it. And then we did, a little bit more catch and eat before we knew about the, everything. So I ran back to my dad, and he kind of looked at me and goes, "Where'd you find that?" It wasn't, "Where'd you catch it?" "Where'd you find it?" So I still remember, that day. So it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's a special moment. I think I can tell you, I remember the first time I caught my first bass, and it's a special moment when people catch their first fish. And that's what I'm saying. You're about 7 or 8 years old, and you don't remember too much after that, but you just remember catching your first bass. So since we're on catching first bass, what's the largest bass that you've caught?
The largest largemouth bass that I caught was 13.25 pounds at Lake Tulloch.
At Lake Tulloch, which is another lake in the foothills of California, correct? Central California?
Correct. Just out of Oakdale, 25 minutes between Oakdale, and it's right near Copperopolis.
Okay, so a nice 13-pounder, 13.25 pounds. Right. I think we spoke earlier. My largest fish was 13.1 pounds, so you beat me on that one. Right. And then you also caught a Kentucky spotted bass, which is not from California. Actually, the bass aren't from California. They were introduced, but they grow pretty good in California, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do. And I was fortunate enough to catch what was it was 3 ounces shy of the world record at the time. That was before Bullard's Bar broke loose. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I caught it at New Maloney's on a river to CS waiver. And that was pretty wild. So it was 10 pounds, 1 ounce.
And as people are coming on, you know, feel free to like and share this with everybody, because this is a dream come true. It's like going to the Super Bowl, okay? And it's a dream of many bass fishermen and ladies to go. So you just feel free to hit like and share. And so I want to go back to last May, okay? We're on Clear Lake, California, okay? And we've got the Bassmaster Nation Regional Finals. Walk us through a little bit about that, how that happens, and how you did in that tournament.
So the regional finals with the Bass Nation, to get to the regional finals, you have to be part of a 10-man state team. And to get to that, you had to either win one of 5 tournaments, or so they took 5 men for the team that way, or you had to be in the top 5 in points. So I was fortunate enough to win the second event at Lake Orville. So I was on the state team, and I went to Clear Lake in May. And at that event, there's 11 other states, and the top finisher from each state then advances to the national championship. And they have a boater and a non-boater, and I was going as a boater. So
wonderful. Congratulations. That's a feat in itself. Okay, so that took you from May, and then took you to the national championship, which was on Lake Pickwick, Alabama. All right.
Correct.
In November. Walk us through that, okay?
The one at Alabama at Pickwick, the off limits with that format, they have off limits to where the lake, you cannot be on the lake or anything before the tournament, a month before. They give you three or 4 days of official practice where all the anglers have the equal opportunity. And then prior to that, you have a month where you cannot be on the water, you can't get any information or anything. So before that period, a month and a half, I flew out to Alabama and practiced for 4 days with my buddy Steve Taylor. And if I didn't do that, there's no way I could have done what I did. So I had a good practice, the official practice. I had actually Steve had a real good practice, you know, before, and I caught some fish as well. And then during the official practice, we went out. I was with Luke Johns, and he was the other non-boater from California that advanced. So we practiced together, and we had a real good practice. So I felt good going into the tournament. And then the first day of the tournament, I was paired with a gentleman from, I think it was Texas, and my mind went blank. I'll remember his name, because
it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Both non-boaters were really awesome guys, and just that helped having guys behind me that, you know, did that. But the first day I had 12 keepers, and I weighed 20 pounds 7 ounces.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I was sitting in 3rd place after the first day of competition overall.
Okay, so again, I apologize. Hold that thought right there. But, you know, for those people who are coming on and saying, you know, what's this all about? So 20 pounds, a 5 fish limit. So we had about a 4 pound average, which is pretty good. That's nothing to sneeze about.
Yeah,
that's a good limit. You were sitting in what place after the first
I was
day?
in third place, and I think first place was about 22 pounds. So I was roughly 1.5 pounds behind first.
Wonderful. By the way, as you guys are coming on here, hit like and share this with everybody. It's not often that we get a Bassmaster qualifier here on the Facebook Live. So go ahead, Randy.
So the second day, and the weather, the first day was kind of cloudy and breezy and everything. So the second day we had more rain, and I fished with a gentleman from Kentucky, Nick Coleman, and he was awesome. And so I went out, and things were not going my way. They weren't pulling the current. So, and with Lake Pickwick, when they don't pull the current, the fish tend to not feed as well as when they're pulling the current. And I had one fish at about 11 o'clock roughly, and I had a 2 o'clock weigh-in, or 2:15, and I had fished one stretch of bank where it became my favorite stretch. And I went back to it for the third time around 11:15, and I proceeded to catch a 3-pound smallmouth. About 4 minutes later, I caught a 4-pound smallmouth, and about 5 minutes after that, I caught a little over 6 pound largemouth.
Wow.
So in a stretch less than 15 minutes, I got healthy real quick. And that day I only caught 6 keepers total for the day. I didn't lose any fish. Everything went perfectly. So it was a day that one of those fish, anything could have changed, and I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Wow.
So
yeah, and that's, we talked about this too last week. Randy and I used to fish against each other. We were fierce competitors. And when you mentioned pre-fish, okay, and you and I kind of have the same mindset when it comes to pre-fishing, and that is, we're not trying to catch fish. We're just trying to go look at areas and try to put the puzzle together, per se. Correct?
Right. It's funny that you brought that up, because a lot of guys that I fish against give me a bad time because they ask how I did in practice or pre-fish, and I only caught this many fish, or I had 10 pounds or whatever, and then the tournament rolls around and I do pretty good. So in the practice, what I try to do is either eliminate water or gain confidence in areas. So
Absolutely.
As far as catching, I don't care what I catch in practice, because it does me no good. I can't weigh those fish in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we talked a little bit about who we were fishing against, right? When we're fishing tournaments.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that when I used to fish, is I was fishing against myself mentally. It's a mental game. And you can take yourself in and out very quickly. And you happen to go ahead. Let's continue with the Pickwick. Okay. But I wanted to kind of just go for a little side note. By the way, as you're coming on board here, just hit like and share. We appreciate it. I want to get this out to as many people. Randy, go ahead. Apologize for interrupting. You know where you left off at?
So the second day, I came in to weigh in, and I think I weighed about 19 and a half. I think it was 19.7. And I jumped into first place. And the biggest thing was I then gained a 4 pound lead over second place, and I had an 8 pound lead over third place. And wow. At this tournament, the top 3 finishers, they all won a boat, and they all won a spot in the Bassmasters Classic. So
terrific. And now?
So going into the third day.
Third and final day.
Yeah, third and final day. We wake up in the morning, and it's crystal clear, freezing cold, 27 degrees. And my wife and Steve and my father-in-law, Tony, they all came down to see me blast off. And, that meant a ton to me. And I was real emotional during each day. And the first day I was probably the most emotional taking off. I got a little teary-eyed, just excited and stuff. But the last day I led the pack taking off. They blast off in order that you sit in the standings. So I took off, and I went to my sweet spot that I had, and I started there, and right off the bat I caught a 2 pound small, actually it was a spotted bass, that one was, and they had to be, I think, 15 inches if I remember correctly. So I put that one in the live well, and it got me calmed down and knowing, okay, yeah, this weather didn't affect them. They're still doing the stuff that I want them to do. And then shortly after that, I lost a 3.5 pound smallmouth that came up and jumped and spit my Kitech. So that one hurt. And about 5 minutes after that, I lost another 4 pound smallmouth on the same Kitech. So now it was potentially going to turn out the wrong way. Like I didn't want it to happen. So I kind of just regrouped, tried to figure out why those fish were coming off. And the only thing I could come up with was just their mean smallmouth in that river system and Pickwick Lake. So I needed to go to a little bit smaller hook with less of a gap, so they didn't have the leverage. So I changed hooks, and then I ran to some different areas, and I put 3 more keepers in the boat fairly quickly, and it got me calmed down to fish the way I needed to fish.
Oh man, so, the mental game right there.
Yeah.
You have what it takes, Randy. You have it. We're so proud of you. And okay, so go ahead.
So then that was probably around 11. So I ended up getting my limit at about 11:30. And again, this is the final day. I got a 2 o'clock weigh-in. So I run to an area, and it was about 1 o'clock, and I had an hour left, and I pulled up, and the current now is really, it's booking pretty good to where I had my my Ultrex on high, and I couldn't even hold. I was going backwards. So I just kind of drifted back with the current. And all of a sudden, right next to me, these shad are getting chased by bass. The bass were coming up trying to eat them. And so I reeled in as quick as I could, and I flipped my little hair jig out there and caught a 4.5 pounder. And I put that one in the boat. And the last day, we were not allowed to use nets to get us prepared for the Bassmasters Classic, which you cannot use nets. So I did that, and that was entertaining. Luckily, I didn't have a camera boat on me to see the couple of mix-ups I did, but we got all that situated. So I turned around and started the big motor and went right back up to where I had the action. I cast it out and caught a 3-pound 1-ounce largemouth. So at that point, when I had my limit, I knew that, okay, I'm going to be going to the Bassmasters Classic. So that kind of calmed me down, but over the years, I knew that the job wasn't over. And a lot of times when you get a decent limit, you kind of think, okay, you ease up a little bit. And I knew that from experience, I needed to keep going and keep going. And so when I caught those 2 fish at 1 o'clock, I thought that I had a realistic shot at winning the event. And during the whole time, even the first day, I never thought about winning the event. I thought about my first fish. And when I caught my first fish, it was thinking about my second, and so on, all the way until my 15th fish. I was taking it 1 fish at a time because I couldn't do well or whatever unless I had a limit each day and make sure I try to get the biggest fish possible.
Absolutely. So. And we catch them one at a time, right? 5 fish, right. But you catch them one at a time. And you're allowed to catch as many fish as you want to, but you also are able to call, and you want to keep the 5 largest fish for that day. Okay. You got them? You're coming in now. You got them.
I'm coming in, and there was the one guy who was in second. He was catching a lot of fish and stuff, so I knew that I figured he was going to probably catch them pretty good, and I figured I didn't weigh 2 of my biggest fish, so I didn't know exactly what they were, and I figured I had roughly 13 to 14 pounds maybe. So when I came in, he was actually kind of the first one that I pulled up next to at the dock when I was pulling out. And he came by me and he says, I didn't catch him. And so, well, didn't catch him. Some guys not catching them is 15 pounds when they're expecting to catch 25.
Yes.
But he said, no, I don't even have a limit. So I knew right there, I was, okay, this became real quick. And my dreams could really happen. And so then I was kind of doing the math, and I thought, if someone really catches them, they got to catch, 22 to 25 pounds. And even at that, they still might not be able to catch me. And then when I pulled up out of the water, they have a spot where they check to make sure your fish are still alive, and they check the length. And I kind of, at that point, when they looked and they said, wow, you had a good day. I'm thinking, okay, well, it's 5 pounds less than what I had the previous days, but it must be pretty good, because they were excited. They hadn't seen many big bags that last day.
Wonderful. And the last day was the top 10, correct?
Correct. It was the top 10, and then if there was anyone that wasn't in the top 10 from other region, from the Eastern, Central, or Western.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, you're there, getting ready to weigh them in. What number were you weighing him in of the top 10?
I was the last one to weigh in.
You're the last one to weigh in.
Yeah. So I went through, and I knew, I think third place, he came in and he had a good bag, and I heard the crowd kind of yelling and everything. So I was kind of I was concerned. I'm not going to lie. I was like, okay, maybe he really smashed him, and maybe I didn't get it. But then when I heard his weight, now I know for sure I won the tournament. So when they pulled the boat up to the stage, I was excited and everything, and looking back, I kind of visioned in my wildest dreams, this is exactly what I dreamed. I mean, this was my wildest dream. And in that dream, I always envisioned myself of, just losing it on stage and being emotional. So when he announced my weight, it was 14.8, and he announced me as the winner, I was just motionless. I mean, I had no emotions. I couldn't have cried or anything if I wanted to. I mean, there was no way. And everything was fine, and I happy as can be. And so then I went off the stage to see my wife, and that's when she hugged me, I hugged her, and I lost it like a little baby. I was absolutely bawling. My father-in-law, Tony, I hugged him. He was crying. I was crying. I hugged Steve, and I don't know if Steve was crying, but I was crying.
Well,
so,
I want you to hold that. We're going to go to break right now, and I want to continue that with family. So we'll be back in 2 and 2. All right, we're back with Randy Pierson, who's the Bassmaster Elite Pro and Bassmaster Qualifier from Oakdale, California. And the Bassmasters is the Super Bowl that everybody in bass fishing wants to get to. So as you're coming on, just hit like and share with everybody. We appreciate it. We're excited to be here with Randy. And Randy, just before we went to break, we left off with family. And you just won the Bass National Championship, first place, and you didn't lose it until you hugged your wife. Okay.
Right.
And as we're talking here on this Facebook Live, I am seeing your family. Your daughter just says, "Dad, I love you." And the support must be enormous from your family. And so let's start with your dad. I love your dad. He's great. Your brother. I mean, I remember meeting you guys at Don Pedro many years ago. And the thing that got me about both of you, you guys both pulled in with 2 bass boats that are called winners. And I remember walking up to you and saying, "Hey, if you guys are winners, I want to get to know you." And all these years later, here we are on a Facebook Live. So talk a little bit about your family and what it means to have the support and who your biggest fan is.
Oh, it's incredible to have, my mom and dad and my wife and my kids and Jacob and Megan, everyone supporting me, and my brother. I mean, my brother calls me almost every day on the way home from work asking, "Did you get any new sponsors? How's it going?" and everything. So, he's a big fan, but my biggest fan is definitely my dad. So, I mean, he taught me getting here where I'm at, and a lot of stuff. And he actually, there was an article in the Oakdale Leader that he didn't know about, and I actually forgot about doing the interview. And when I did the interview, I didn't realize a whole lot of things that I said and everything. So when he was at the coffee shop, they showed it to him. So I think he was pretty proud about it. And I'm definitely proud. And I couldn't have a better teacher.
Well, I know your family's proud of you. And as people are coming on, they're hitting like and share. I'm just glancing at some of the comments. We talked about too, and you're no spring chicken. You're not like 21, 22 years old heading back east to the Bassmaster Classic. You took care of things first, and that was family, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the family. I'm kind of lost train of thought because I'm visioning you in that American flag shirt. I remember those days.
Absolutely, I enjoyed it. And when I retired in 2007, it was all about family. And now my kids are just about out of the door here. So.
Thanks, Jason, for making me lose my concentration. So I lost it. So
yeah.
what was the question?
Well, the question was I'm seeing people saying, "Oh, you're a great soccer coach too, baseball coach." You did everything with your family, and basically you never forgot about your dream. You didn't put it on hold. You lived the dream while you could, but now you see the opening and you are going to live your dream.
Right. Okay. Going back. I mean, I won a big tournament back in 2000, the end of 2002, and for the Juan Bass Western Classic, and it was a pro tournament, and there was a lot of big names before they went out back east to fish professionally. And I had the doors open then to where I could have kind of pursued that track. And my kids were 2 and 4 years old, and I decided, you know, with talking with my wife and everything, that wasn't the right time for me to do that. And so I didn't go out, and if I had it to do all over again, I would make the same exact choice, because there's nothing that I would ever, you know, turn away from than coaching my kids and watching both of them grow up. And I was fortunate enough to coach my daughter for a little bit, and then I coached Jacob all the way through high school to when he graduated. So it's something that was pretty amazing.
Wonderful. And that's a testament to anybody. Never give up on your dreams. I am so huge on that. When I'm consulting with businesses, one of the first things I ask a business is, what's your dream? I want to know what their dream is. Same thing applies to every aspect in your life. So thanks for sharing that, Randy, because it is important. Okay, so now, please go ahead. You wanted to add something?
Oh yeah, and so going back, I mean, you talk about dreams and stuff. So when I got home from winning the tournament, I had a lot of decisions and everything, and I knew obviously I was going to the Bassmasters Classic and trying to figure out if I was really going to do the Elite Series. And I was just debating, do I do it, do I not? And I talked to a few people about trying to make the right decision, and I didn't want to make a selfish decision and say, oh yeah, I'm going to fish, and if it's not the right thing financially for myself and my family. So there was one day where I was headed out to work, and I went back in the house for some, I forget half of the things, so I come back into the house to get them anyways. So my wife looked at me and she says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm just confused. And she said, well, what are you confused about? I said, well, I'm confused about making the right decision. And so then she told me, she says, look, there's no decision. So now she even confused me more. So I said, what do you mean there's no decision? She says, well, you're fishing. She goes, you had your chance years ago, and God gave you the second chance, and he opened the doors for you. You're taking advantage of it, and you're going to do it, because if you don't, you may never not have the opportunity again.
Absolutely. Well, and there's something to be said of that. When the opportunity comes, seize it. You've been preparing for this, and the opportunity is there, Randy, and you are seizing upon it, and you're very blessed with you and your family. Okay, so we got 2019, okay, and Bassmaster Classic, again, the World Series, the Super Bowl of fishing is going to be coming up. Tell me a little bit about that, what your preparations are, what you're going to do, and, well, you can't tell us what to do, and that you can't get it, what the rules are. Take it away.
So the Bassmaster Classic, it has different rules. So you cannot, as of January 1st, and the Classic is held this year, March 15th, 16th, and 17th at the Tennessee River and Fort Loudon and Tellico Lakes. So I cannot get any information starting. It was January 1st. I can't be on the water, same thing. And actually before that, once they announced that I was fishing the Bassmasters Classic, my information was done. You can't talk to anyone who knows the lake, so you're on your own. Everything at that tournament, I have to learn completely on my own. So I went back to kind of practice before, and we ran into a freezing rainstorm and had some boat issues. So I really didn't get on the water, and I just drove around it, looked at it from a vehicle just to get my bearings a little bit. And I think that helped me a little bit. Definitely didn't hurt. So I'm going in, I will have 4 days of practice for that tournament prior to the start of it.
Wonderful. Along with the other competitors, how many others are there?
There's 52 total anglers, and it's when you're a kid, you're watching. I remember watching, I can't even remember how old I was, but I was young, and watching Danny Brower and I mean, of course, Kevin Van Dam, you always see him up there, and
Yes.
he's phenomenal. And just, it's like, man, one of these days, maybe I could be there. And back then, it wasn't as realistic as it is now. I mean, especially with
Absolutely.
all the ways you could possibly get there.
By the way, I forgot to ask you, how old are you now?
I am 47.
47, living the dream. Okay, never too old to
Yeah.
go after those dreams. Yeah. Okay, so your first stop. Now, you're in California. Your first stop is going to be Florida, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you driving out? How's that going to happen?
Well, it's as of right now, I really honestly don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to get a new Toyota. Toyota's a big sponsor of Bassmasters. So I'm trying to get that, and it looks like that's going to happen. So if I happen to get that, buy the new truck before this tournament, I might leave on Sunday and drive it out there, or I might be flying next Tuesday or Wednesday. But the whole thing about it is I'm so fortunate and to have friends like I do. And Steve Taylor and Jennifer Taylor, I mean, they live in Georgia. So
Yes.
that's like my second this year. That's going to be my second family, and I hope they like me and don't lock the door on me.
Well, just so you know, I'm here on the beach. You got a place to
Okay.
stay with me always. Okay, so just so you
Okay.
know, Deidre would love to have you.
Okay.
Again, Randy used to stay at our house on Clear Lake all the time. Him and his dad, brothers, everybody would come and stay with us. So, Randy, same invitation here. Okay, just so you know,
Yeah.
you got a lot
Okay.
of love, and I'm going to come see you. Now, when is the first stop, and where is the first stop on the tour?
The first one on the tour is February 7th on the St. Johns River, and that's it's about 5 hours, I think, from Georgia, where everything's going to be. So I'm having all my stuff shipped to Georgia. So Steve's going to be getting a whole bunch of equipment, all stuff, and I go pick up Bass Nation. They provide me with a boat because of the package that I won.
So you get a free boat to use?
I get a boat to use for a year, and it's a wrapped boat with Phoenix, and it's a Phoenix boat, and it's
Wonderful.
pretty incredible. And Bass Nation and Bassmasters, everything is just so amazing and awesome. So I get that, and I pick that up at Bass. I think it's at Bass headquarters, so I'll pick that up prior to the event, and that's why I'm leaving quite a few days earlier to go get that. So when I do that, then I'll drive back to Georgia and then load everything in it, and then we'll head out to Florida. And my buddy Steve is traveling with me. He's kind of like my caddy.
Wonderful.
So
That's great.
he's gonna shoot some live feed and everything. So we'll see.
All right. Well, okay. So let's wrap up here a little bit. We talked a little bit about the Bassmaster Classic, which is going to be in March. You're going to have 2 tournaments under your belt before you get to the Classic. So some of those butterflies in your stomach will be gone. And at 47, who gets butterflies, right, Randy?
Oh, you still get them.
Yeah.
So.
Great. And so sponsors, okay, Toyota Tundra, that sounds terrific. Any other sponsors you'd like to talk about?
Well, Toyota's not a sponsor of mine. They're a sponsor of Bassmasters.
Okay, so they're going to give you a truck, though. So you're going to
No. I'm having to purchase my truck.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
Yeah, no,
gotcha.
they're just a sponsor of Bassmasters.
Okay. Any other sponsors
So,
out there?
So I just got one that I'm really excited. I can announce that Chicken Ranch Casino is sponsoring me.
Oh,
and that's not
great.
a fishing sponsor. So that's, I am so grateful with that whole opportunity. I mean, with them doing what they're going to, they're helping me out and partnering with me. I mean, it helps me live my dream. And along with Village Supply, and that's a new one. And another thing, I mean, every one of these sponsors just helps me live my dream. Dobbins Rods, Lowrance, Keeper Worms, and then of course Cogburn Distributing. here out of Oakdale, Brian and
Brian,
Tish,
yeah, Brian and Tish, they're wonderful people. Wonderful people, absolutely.
They've helped me out tremendously, and Power Pole's helping out a little bit, so it's
terrific.
It's really good. I'm very fortunate.
And you're always open for new sponsors, right?
Oh yeah, of course. You know,
absolutely.
I mean, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If anyone, we're open for any sponsors.
That's great. So talking about that, how can somebody find you? How can somebody follow you? What's the best way?
The best way is on Instagram at Randy Pierson Fishing, and I am going to have a fan page on Facebook, and it is as well Randy Pierson Fishing. And what I'm going to do with that is, as I travel to each event, I'm going to try to get footage of my travel experience, and I'm going to try to get on the water videos, little clips and photos and stuff, and that's going to be all on Randy Pierson Fishing on Facebook. And wonderful. Then of course I have my my other page, Randy Pierson, on Facebook, yes. Which I'm going to kind of go everything towards the fan page, because I will try to keep the whole fishing stuff that's going to be directed at fishing. That's terrific. And then if anyone has any questions or anything, you can message me on Messenger or email at randypearsonfishing@gmail.com.
Great. And this video is being recorded and will be downloaded, and we're going to get you your YouTube page set up too. Right. And at the end of it, we'll have that information written out so somebody can grab that information if they want to contact you, follow you. And, you know, we're so proud of you. And by the way, as you're coming on, just hit like and share, okay? And we'll get this out to everybody. I'm seeing all the comments coming in, Randy. You have so many fans already. It's unbelievable. It's such a pleasure.
It's kind of weird because I've never, you know, this is a new experience, and people are probably wondering hopefully my eyes, you can't see them because I keep on looking at these comments and trying, you know, it means a lot to me, and I appreciate it. Yeah. So much. Hi, Tammy.
Well, here's the thing. You're so humble, and everybody that knows you and that has fished against you knows that too, that you're humble. And that's why we're so excited for you. And the Bassmaster Classic can be watched live. Just go to bassmaster.com. You can also follow Randy on there. But again, Randy's going to have a Facebook page, Randy Pierson Fishing. Instagram is at Randy Pierson Fishing. Email randypearsonfishing@gmail.com. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Yeah. There. My gosh, is there anything else that maybe I left out that I forgot to ask you that we talked about? Because we've been kind of talking for the last week about this and your excitement and everything.
I have one question for you.
Yes,
and
sir.
It still bothers me to this day. Do you remember that time you beat me with a crappie jig?
Absolutely. It's one of my proudest wins ever.
Why don't you say something about that?
Well, so I lived in Northern California. Randy's kind of from Central California, and he decided he might come up to Lake Oroville and whoop on us Northern California guys. Well, he thought so, and but I had another plan out, and I remember I was fishing a tournament on Lake Shasta the day before, and Ken Ma, we were talking about, I said, I'm going to win that tournament tomorrow, and he goes, you are? I go, absolutely. I have the new secret weapon. And he goes, what is it? I go, well, you have to wait till after I win. And I just happened to see Randy the next morning of that tournament. It was a one-day tournament. And I had my little secret weapon with me, the crappie jig. And it was just a little bait, that big. And well, Randy pulled out. Randy thought he was the last person to pull out that day, didn't you?
I remember I was late, and you know, I thought I had about 9 pounds, which at that time for Orville was good. And I remember you pulled out like a 4.5 pounder.
Yes, I did. And I'll never forget. That's one of the tournaments where you actually say, it didn't matter how much money, I beat Randy Pierson. Okay. And some of you guys who are watching this right now, click like and share because you understand what I'm saying. When you beat somebody like Randy, that's something you don't forget. But Randy, we're so excited for you. We're going to be following you. I can't wait to see you. I'm going to be driving 5 hours to see you at your first tournament here in Florida. And those of you who are watching from California, there's Florida string bass in Florida, okay? Just so you guys know. It's been a pleasure. I'm honored to have you as a friend.